Welcome to the Driven Moms Answering Adversity interview series, Stories of Success Through Setbacks with Mom Elevated. Together, we can shine a light on how normal challenges and struggles are, along with how we can overcome and rise above them. And today we have Alexandria, did I say that right? Alexandria
Yes.
with us today to share her story with us. So, if you wouldn't mind starting by just sharing a little tidbit about your story and about you, feel free.
Sure. So my name is Alexandria Smith. I have started sharing my story in a online community I founded called Mom Wife Worship Life. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder when I was 21 years old. I was a senior in college, and it was a very difficult time for me being so young and not really understanding what was happening, what that meant for my life. I just remember saying, I just want to get back to normal. I just want to be normal again. So from then until now, it's been about 20 or more years. I have been working really hard to figure out a new normal, and to learn how to thrive in my life and not just survive this illness. So I've worked really hard to develop a collaborative care team and put some resources in place for myself that have helped me to really come to a place where I can enjoy my life. And so now that I've come to that place, then I wanted to be able to share some of those resources and ideas with other women who may be struggling with mental illness or just struggling to find themselves in motherhood.
I think that's beautiful. What a way to like give back from your struggle too.
Yes.
That's amazing. So what is it that you do exactly? Like what is your title? What is it a little bit?
So I am a women's wellness advocate and educator. So the best way I can describe it is that I advocate for women who don't know how to yet advocate for themselves. So in finding, like I said, resources, referrals to mental health doctors or um, centers or services that they may not even be aware that exist. Right now, I'm focused in Florida, but I do plan to branch out. And as I learn more about resources in other states, then I will make those resources available to others as well.
That's incredible. That's really important. Also, I don't think people realize how much you have to advocate for yourself in any kind of health field.
Yes.
We have a daughter who has extra support that she needs from PT and
Mhm.
just her journey, it started when she was 2, she'll be 8 this year? Nope, 9, she'll be 9 this year. And just from that journey alone, the amount of times that I had to do research to see what questions I needed to ask to the right doctors and to get in front of the right people, it is wild. So I think people
Yes.
don't even realize exactly how much they need to advocate for themselves in everything. It is
Yes.
such a
So
vital.
important, yes. And I I'm currently a stay-at-home mom, but I worked in education for around 15 or so years where I was a middle school math teacher. And so I learned the importance there of really, like you said, finding those resources and learning how to use them where appropriate, based on each student, what each student needs, and again, advocating on behalf of those who weren't able to advocate for themselves. So, along with that experience as an educator, and then my own experience in the mental health care system as a patient, I've really learned the importance of advocacy, and I want to share that with others.
I love that. I think that's fantastic. And the fact that you have both to pull from, both experiences.
Yes.
So within all of that, what do you think is the biggest adversity that you had to answer, and how did you rise up to that and face that challenge? Like what?
I think for me, the biggest adversity was accepting that I had a chronic illness and it's not going to go away, and learning how to embrace it, but not allow it to cripple me, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So embracing the fact that I have this illness, it's here to stay. How can I best cope with it and deal with it so that I can live the best life in the most full life that I can, with all of the the everything that comes along with having the illness. So that was, I think that was the biggest adversity I had to overcome. Because like I said, I was so young when I got diagnosed, and I just wanted to go back to being a college girl. I wanted to go back to my parties and go back to, my dorm room with my friends. And it just wasn't the same after that diagnosis, and, having all the medication and having to go to all the doctor's appointments and the hospital stays. It just wasn't the same. So I really had to accept that and then figure out how to make it work for my life. And especially with becoming a wife and a mom, that was just a whole another ball game. It was a like piling on top of, what I had already experienced as a younger woman. So I believe that was my biggest adversity to overcome, just accepting the illness and learning how to best cope with it so that I could live a full life.
Do you find that there are like certain things that trigger certain parts of that illness for you? Like did
Absolutely.
did motherhood kind of exasperate some of that where you're like, "Oh, this is a new adjustment that I have to make to the
So
state," or
I'm sorry, go ahead. Yes.
no,
So for me, anxiety, just general anxiety. And so, yes, motherhood did exacerbate that because I was so anxious about becoming a new mom. I wanted to do everything right. I remember riding home from the hospital with my daughter, my oldest daughter, and telling my husband, "You're not supposed to have the seat on the car seat. You have to push the seat up." And he's like, "You need to chill out." So I was like super anxious about everything with my first daughter. Of course, there's that kind of running joke that with the second child, you're kind of over all of it. So it
yeah.
wasn't as bad with my second daughter, but yeah. So for me, anxiety, and what I recognize is that the anxiety leads to insomnia. And then the insomnia is what will cause me to kind of have that mental break where if I go, let's say I can go 24 hours with no sleep, and there's definitely going to be some repercussions for that.
Yeah.
So it's like a pattern: the anxiety, then the insomnia, and then usually a manic episode from that.
Okay. That's wow, that is fascinating also. So,
Yeah.
like, having to recognize do you have to recognize things that because obviously we live with anxiety every day. There's different things
Yes.
that you pile on. So, how do you best handle that before it gets to insomnia? Or do you like once you start staying up for a certain amount of time, are you like, "Oh,
It's
this is not
usually
good."
if I miss a night of sleep, then I know so what we've gotten to now. I mentioned my collaborative care team. I have a psychiatrist that I see every 4 to 6 weeks. I have a psychologist that I see every 2 weeks, and then me and my husband see a marriage counselor every 2 weeks when I don't see the psychologist. So it's like a constant continuation of care.
Yeah.
And what we've gotten to now is we have an emergency medication plan, so that if I miss that sleep, I immediately switch to my emergency medication, and I start administering it to myself. And then I will then call the doctor, and we'll kind of see where I am. And usually doing that lately has kept me from having to be hospitalized. So it used to be where I would be hospitalized maybe once a month. It was really bad. It was very um, I was having what they call rapid cycles. So I was, going up and down very quickly, in and out of the mania, the depression, and kind of just going up and down. So
Yeah.
with the emergency medical plan, we've been able to avoid that. And so once I start the emergency medication, I usually stay on it for like a week, and then we're able to stabilize, and I can go back to my regular medication.
That's incredible. Kudos to you for getting all of that put into place because I'm sure that
Thank you.
yeah, I'm sure that was just a lot of like stress actually, probably extra anxiety to start with, but
Well, it's a lot of trial and error. You kind of have to figure out what works for you. I remember, going to the hospital, sometimes spending 14 days in the hospital, and the doctors not being able to get me to go to sleep, like trying all this different medication and nothing worked. So it's like once we found that medication that did it, it was like, yes, this is the one. Like let's write this down. Let's keep this. So once we and it's been that way for years. We try different things, and sometimes the side effects have the side effects outweigh the benefits of the medicine. So it's a lot of trial and error, and it takes a lot of patience. It really does.
Right. I can imagine it's frustrating throughout that trial and error experience where you're like, oh my gosh, I just need the one, the one that will work. Do
Right.
you think your background in education then kind of helps support? Because I feel like a lot of any kind of thing that we are unaware of or unfamiliar
Mhm.
with, I feel like it takes a lot of just educating in order to get people on board and to like get them to understand and see where you're coming from. Do you think your background in education kind of helped not only you cope with that and understand from a different perspective, but also like others around you to get them to understand what was happening? And
Yeah, I think what really, aside from my background in education, I'm just like a lifelong learner. So once I kind of accepted that this is, my cup to bear, I researched everything. Like I would go to the bookstore and read medical journals, medical dictionaries. If I was hospitalized and I heard the doctor use a term that I didn't know, of course, I asked the doctors when I'm there, but then I would go look it up, read about it. So I'm constantly reading articles. If I'm taking medication, I'm researching what the medication is, what the side effects are, what the contraindications are. It's a lot of learning and teaching myself and learning what questions to ask. So I think my background as an educator, because as an educator, I think we are lifelong learners, and we're constantly learning so that we can teach others.
mm,
So with that, I have just position myself to be able to take in a lot of information and kind of digest it and do what I need to do with it so that I can get the information I need to improve my health and then be able to help others as well.
that's beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think now that you're kind of on the other side? You said you're a
Yes.
stay-at-home mom, but you also are helping others and advocating and kind of dipping your toes into the entrepreneurial world,
Right.
making that happen. What do you think it is about entrepreneurs that makes us continue on through challenges without giving up when times are tough? When you know that there's might be a chance that you're going to be hospitalized or you got to figure out a new way. What do you think it is that's like, I'm still going to do this?
I think for me personally, I can't really speak for anybody else. There's a passion behind this. Even as a teacher, whatever you're doing in life, I think for you to get any joy out of it, for you to get any to keep wanting to do it, there has to be a passion and a drive that makes you continue. I remember when I was teaching and, people would ask me about did I want to go into administration. I'm like, no, I don't think I want to do that. And my mom taught for 18 years and then she went into administration and she had a 35-year career. So she finished out her career in administration. And I would ask her, how do I know when it's time to move on? And she said, trust me, you'll know, when it's time, when you're done teaching, you'll know. And that's kind of the point I got to when we decided for me to stay home with the girls. I just knew that passion wasn't there anymore, that drive, that desire to really push for making that difference in that area of my life, and it kind of I transitioned into a different passion and wanting to place my focus on something different. So I think that's what keeps us going as entrepreneurs is having that drive and that passion to want to make a difference in whatever area your focus is on.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And especially since you did have to do so much learning and advocating for yourself, I can see how that has shifted your passion to be, I'm going to help others who don't know how to do this research or don't know how to advocate for themselves in the same way that this is
Right.
what they need to do. That's
Right.
yes, I love that journey. That's great. What then is the biggest takeaway or lesson that other mompreneurs can take directly from your experience, or that you would like them to take away from your experience specifically?
That's a great question. I was just talking about this earlier. I do a weekly live session on Instagram called Thriving Mama Thursdays. And I was talking about just not giving up. If you have a goal, or if you have a dream, entrepreneurial dream, or something that you really aspire to do, I would say push yourself to do it. And so much as moms that can, feel like it's hindering us. We feel guilty for leaving our children, especially for me as a stay-at-home mom. When I travel, I feel bad. I've never gone for that many days, or it's hard. So I would just say continue to push yourself and do it in your own terms. Don't allow anyone to define for you what your journey should look like. I think that's most important, is doing it in a way that is most comfortable for you and your family, but definitely doing it and not giving up on your dream.
I think that's great. Well, and that it can shift, it can change just like yours. Like, allow that to be okay. That journey can take a new path and it still is your
Right.
journey, right? So
Exactly.
that's fantastic. Also, I love that you do those. This will probably be coming out, your episode will be coming out about December, so everybody will be watching
Okay.
this around Christmas time, so
Okay.
that'll be wonderful for them to tap into those resources when they are super stressed about holidays and having
Yes.
their kids home on break, or thinking
Yes.
about what they're gonna do, so I love that. What's the best way for others to find you? Obviously, probably Instagram, but if they want to learn more, work with you, or just follow you.
Absolutely. So my website is momwifeworshiplife.com. And I am on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, LinkedIn, all at Mom Wife Worship Life.
That's fantastic, and I'll have the link in the description for everybody, but that way, if they're just listening, they can still find you. I love it
Yes.
so much. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank
I
you for having me.
I love hearing all of your guys' stories, and it's really fun to hear. This is the second one I've heard, from a mental health aspect, and
Okay.
stumbling onto something that you didn't necessarily realize or expect, but
Mm-hmm.
coming out of it so strong. It is amazing. Like, you just exude the fact that, you've come through this, you are thriving now, and I
Yes.
think that is a beautiful testament to others to be able to see that and know that that is possible, that even if they're in the beginning stages of discovering
Yes.
it, seeing where they can get to if they just keep going, like you said, don't give up.
Just keep pushing and don't give up. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for sharing. Your story is inspirational, and your willingness to be open about it is much appreciated and very much needed in this space, especially during this time, I think, where we're
Yeah,
learning even more about mental health and how important it is, and just discovering all the ins and outs that we never knew existed. So
absolutely.
thank
Thank
you
you
for
so
that.
much. Thank
Yes.
you.
And for those of you out there facing your own adversity, know that you're not alone. That's why we're doing this. That's why we're sharing these stories and letting you know what is possible, how you can get through it, different ways to adapt and overcome. So, when you need an extra hand or mind for brainstorming during your mompreneur journey, we would love to work with you through the Mom Elevated Society. You'll find monthly check ins for goal setting and assessing, and so much more in there for both your business and your mom life. And until next time, keep shooting for the stars.